Hi everybody, Amy Laughlin here. I'm doing this video in part as a response to the Smart Elections US recent video where they're unpacking the misrepresentation of their efforts and evidence in a NBC News story about them. And I was troubled to learn that the disparaging dismissal of people like me who are concerned about election tampering in 2024. So there are 43% of Democrats apparently who believe there was some sort of interference. And we are not crazy. We are not believing leaders who are telling us lies. The leaders are saying something different, and we're saying we need to look at the evidence. So we are not the same as the 70% of Republicans who believed election denying in 2020. We are not being conned by anybody. We are trying to pay attention to the facts. So that is what we're asking. And if there is any kind of fringe in that 43%, it is the highly educated tech people, the math whizzes, the scholars of data, the people who understand how easy and hackable our world is now, the cybersecurity experts who understand that many hacks go completely undetected and the only way you can see if they did anything was to look at what they changed. You may not find a trace of them in the system. So that's who we are. I'm not a scientist, but I am science-minded. And I do believe that we need to take a closer look here. So anybody who is still thinking that election denying is what we're doing is not getting it. We are wanting the same thing, which is to look more closely at the elections and look at the ballots, but our motives and our evidence for doing so are entirely different. So getting to the long con of election denying, we know, I think, very clearly what election denying does to the base of people who already believe that. So but the long con was really on Democrats. The long con was to get so you have election denying, and then what they wanted us to do was to take the higher road and say, we are not election deniers. Election deniers, we are not election deniers. That is what they wanted. That is what that long con was about. People who aren't election deniers don't challenge elections. They don't look at the ballots. They have faith in the elections when faith is appropriate in church, but not in elections. So they are victims of the con. I know from personal experience, I have a family member who was conned. And even after the police and the courts were involved and they found the culprit, he still wouldn't believe that he was conned. And I think that we may be there with our Democratic leaders who are like, why won't our base believe us? Well, the reason is because you're wrong. And that is a logical fallacy to say that leaders are right, whereas the people are more likely to be wrong. That doesn't hold. We have a president now who has some harebrained ideas about tariffs, and everybody knows those are wrong, including many people in the Republican Party. So that proves that leaders aren't always right. So in this particular case, the leaders who are saying Democrats should not challenge elections are falling for the con, and they are basically, if they're unwilling to change their views, they're basically enemies of truth and therefore also enemies of the people. So if they can get out of their own way, if they can get out of their strong opinions, which is based on limited understanding of what happened, irregardless of the facts, of the ballots and the data, if they won't change their opinions on that, their stance, they're trapped in their talking points just the way the GOP is trapped in theirs. So if you can't get out of your own way and be the stronger person to be able to admit that you made a mistake, that you fell for a con, maybe you don't even need to admit it. Maybe you can just take the other position without drawing too much attention to the fact that you were conned and you fell for it. Using the idea of using your enemy's strength against them. You've got election deniers. We don't deny elections as Democrats. That's the same. Those are the same, and they're all part of that same lie. Meaning, and I'm saying Democrats are believing the lie that the GOP wants us to believe about ourselves, in fact. The really strong thing to do is say, election denier, challenge every single election. That is much stronger. It's like the way they've taken cancel culture and like they're canceling whole groups of people. That's using your enemy's strength against them. They're also using that strength against their own constituents, which is the way they can't get out of their way. So what can leaders do? Well, let me just, I want to just say very quickly, the logic mistakes that are made in the news and by politicians. Just because one group of people who want to challenge an election on the face of it might seem like another group that wants to challenge elections doesn't mean they're at all the same. Just because the action they want is the same doesn't mean that their reasons and their evidence are the same. It doesn't mean that they're following a leader like a cult. They're individuals who have their own opinions and they're rising up. Just because somebody's a leader doesn't mean they're right. We've seen that. And just because an election here was secure doesn't mean the next election was. There's no, you can't say that. You can only say each election is as secure as it is. As to the difference between facts, understanding, and opinions, regardless of our opinions and our understanding, facts will be facts. We can't change facts. Facts are facts. Too often, people are not looking at the facts when they are coming to some limited understanding and digging into a position that they are hard-pressed to change out of later. Remember, the strong character is willing to adapt to new information, even when it means adjusting their core values. It isn't stronger always to do X, Y, Z. It is stronger to always look at how each context and situation is different and adapt appropriately. Okay, so what can leaders do? Get out of your way. Step out of your talking points. We see the problem of the unified front of the GOP, which is taking it to the level of a cult. Please, Democrats, let's let people have their differing opinions. Let's let the people say what is of a concern for them. And if our Democratic leaders are telling the Republican voters that their representatives and senators should listen to them, then our Democratic leaders should listen to us. If 43% of us are saying there's a problem with the 2024 elections, and I would add, and possibly any since, then you should listen to us. It should be enough that we are concerned. Remember, because we vote for you, and you are there for us. And if we have this concern, regardless of what you believe, that should be enough. Even if you are very strongly sure the election wasn't tampered with, put the factual evidence where your claims are and count the paper ballots. Thanks for listening. Please start to do the right thing. Democratic leaders, it's stronger to change your point of view in light of the emerging facts.